where are you right now? If all of these are great, fantastic. You guys can teach the class. If I'm guessing there's going to be one or two or three of these or more that feel like real key pain points. So kind of get that in your mind, write it down if you haven't already, because again, we have to know where we're starting from before we know how to get to where we want to go. If you want to share, fantastic. If something else came up that wasn't on the list, because this is not an exhaustive list, if you thought of something else like, yeah, this thing here, right? Then we can also talk about that.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
Questions?
Any thoughts?
Insights?
Questions?
Ahas?
Go. I'll be brutally honest. So we've been married for about 17 years. And when we were newly married, I felt like maybe there was some resentment to my mother-in-law that she didn't help her son grow up, and it wasn't necessarily my responsibility to help him in that space. I look back, I wish I could rewind time because I'm the one that loves him and wants to be with him forever. No time is better than the present to start growing and getting better. But where I am right now is my girls are 11 and 13, and the things that I've been training them on and growing them, some spaces, maybe they're further along than dad is in those spaces. And holy smokes, like we're in this place where like the three of us, poor man, he's with three strong women. So he's maybe not as far, and that gets pointed out. And I think that that's very deflating for him. So I'm in a space where we want better. Like I don't want resentment, but then it's like, how do we go back and coach him up to get there without having it hit to his ego? I don't know if this is appropriate for this conversation, but that's kind of where I am, because some of these things aren't because things are bad. It's just because when the time was of the essence, I just chose to ignore it and sweep it under the rug instead of diving in. So hindsight's 2020.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Kelly, thank you so much for sharing that. You brought up some such important elements. Number one, ladies, and this is so, I have to emphasize this as much as I possibly can. You do not want your husbands or sons to be women. I'm not saying you say that, but it came to the surface. Sometimes we're like, why can't she just be more like me and my daughters? Right? And I'm not saying you're doing that, Kelly. So I'm just talking and because men will do it too. Why can't my wife just be more like me? And why can't she think like me and act like me and respond like me? Can't my daughters just do what my sons do? It's so much easier. They would just do it. I don't want my daughters to be men. And I don't want my sons, and you don't want your husband to be a woman. So that's a very important distinction, because you don't want the crossover.
So essentially it's like, as we come up with a plan, as you coming up with a strategy, we have to differentiate between what is it that's just part of being a man that I want to keep, and what is it that's just a thing that he doesn't know that I want it this way, and it's easy for me to tell him, do it this way. Right?
So we don't want him to be more feminine. We just want him to be his best masculine.
Yeah.
And his very best masculine may not reach over into the femininity you want. That's your domain. That's your world. Does that make sense? It's so important, so powerful. I loved your point about, like, his mother should have taught him these things. Yes, that is so true. Parents are failing all the time, and they just drop the ball. And we meet up and we're like, oh man, you serious? I gotta deal with all that. And like you're saying, now looking back with the hindsight of 2020, right? It should have started. But the good news is it can still begin, and it can happen quickly. Sometimes we think it's so deeply ingrained, it'll never change, it'll take forever. That's just not true. With the right strategy and right clarity and communication, change can happen very quickly, like massive turnarounds. And so that can happen, like you said, like, look, let's get that going. And in no way, shape, or form does it have to damage the ego. Right. Or his identity.
That's what I was going to emphasize, because the best approach is obviously going to be one that does not cause harm to, because we don't want that. We don't want to cause harm to our spouses. We all intrinsically know that, although sometimes, unfortunately, we inadvertently do that. So we have to be very aware so that we can take an approach that's fun, playful, respectful, loving, and encourage the things that we want. Refining, right? That's a good thing. Encourage the things we want without tearing them down. Because especially for men, men thrive on respect. Like, I think even more than your love, they want your respect. And sex, of course. But so if we disrespect them, that's very painful. Like, they feel that in their soul.
And their identity. That's
Their
what starts
identity.
to crush identity.
Yeah. So it's very crushing. So we have to be careful that as we take an approach to be like, okay, babe, I would really like you to do this thing this way, that it's not in a way that's like, what's wrong with you? You're such a slob. Why do you always do this and make a mess and make more work for me? You're so insensitive. You know, like, that's hurtful. That's painful. So we have to have love. We have to have respect. We have to praise. They like praise. Men love praise. We need to praise them for the things they do well and that we notice and we're appreciative for. So that's a part of this key. It's like, okay, start paying attention. What does he do and what does he do well that you can start noticing and vocalizing?
Best way to vocalize it, at least for me, is just say, well, when you do that, it's really sexy. And like, if Rachel comes out and is like, hey,
Like, wow.
when you take out the garbage, it is so sexy. I'm like, is there garbage somewhere? Kids, come dump some garbage so mom can see me take it out. It's like, you just go. Remember, your words carry weight, massive, massive weight. If your husband loves you, what you say is a big deal. And everything he does, he wants to do for you. So he needs you to help refine him and help him be better. That's the role of the feminine, is to help the masculine level up. The way you do it will either make him rise or make him run off. And a little side note here. You remember that?
Yeah.
What you were saying? Little side note here. I know, ladies, I know you think you want a tamed lion. You do not. You want your man to be a lion, a real manly man. You're like, but that's risky. And he roars sometimes, and he's kind of a mess of a barbarian. Yep. You want your man to be a man. But these women, and you're young and you're married, and you just keep caging him and caging him and caging him. And then finally he's like, okay. And he acquiesces and he settles in his little cage. And he's like, he just kind of starts existing like a caged lion. And after a couple of years, you're like, you're sure of war. Where's all this lion? It's not very attractive anymore. Like, what happened to all that spark? And he's like, you caged woman. Right? So you don't want a caged lion. You don't want a eunuch, eh? You want a man. And there's some discomfort that comes with having a man around. Because he likes adventure and challenge and buying things that make no sense to you. But you need a man. And when he feels like a man, he will show up for you.
I want to go back to the idea, because you mentioned in passing and touched on how a man is really driven to do things for his woman. And you may not think that that's true. And part of that might be everything you just talked about, because he feels like a cage lion. And so he's like, what's the point? Because I try to roar and she just gets mad, right?
I check every box and still don't have sex.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's the point?
So I want to tell, it came to my mind, and I'm going to share it because I think it illustrates it so well. It's actually a very personal story. It's a sad story. It wasn't.
I'm nervous.
I know. It's actually not about you, but it's about our son. But I thought it illustrated so well. I'm just feeling it when I'm thinking about it. It illustrated so well to me, again, something that I knew, but I don't know it because I'm not a man, I'm a woman. So it reminded me. You guys know that our son broke up with his girlfriend a few months ago. And it was so sad because,
like, practically engaged girlfriend. It was serious.
Yeah. Excuse me. It was so sad because I found out about it because she actually texted me because he was outside. And we went outside and found him in tears, like sobbing. This is a kid that never cried. And, all the things. But one of the things he said at some point was he was remodeling this Defender, right? And he loves this kind of stuff. He loves remodeling. He loves fixing things. He loves working with his hands. He loves all this stuff. But he said, what's the point? Like the whole thing, like the whole the whole project, his whole business plan, his whole life, because she broke up with him, he felt, what's the point? That's how a man feels. He feels that strongly. If he doesn't have you to do it for, what's the point?
His whole existence is based on
the pursuit of the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.